almost all 3 games are identical because it's really tight. It's a one tie game or a 1-goal game late in the second period. Couple of quick goals by Boston at the end of the second. So it's almost been identical, the scoring pattern of it. I don't view this as we scored a whole bunch of goals. But it's 1-1. When you're up 1-0, it doesn't feel like you're scoring very much, or down 1-0. So it's not like we've seen a game where from the start of the game to the end, both teams had a ton of chances, where it was even. It's kind of like you're going to grind the heck out of it for about 35 minutes, and then somebody's going to get a break. And that's what the feel from the benches. I watched the games last night, and there seems to be more up and down the ice chances right from the get-go in those series.
Paul, I know that we talked about Ekblad yesterday, but I want to ask you about Forsling. He also has had a bounce back after Game 1, and I remember talking to him after Game 1, and he pretty much guaranteed that he'd have a bounce back.
Yeah.
And you look at his analytics last game, and they were unbelievable.
It's a really great story in the NHL, and I can't really tell it because I don't understand all of it. He's just a late developing player, and it wasn't out of lack of work. It was his frame, which is funny now because he's our fittest athlete, and he's just in incredible shape and heavy and fast and all the things that go into that fitness level. And I think he just had to get the details of his game perfect to stay in the NHL right before he to buy himself time to stay in the NHL. His game had to get systematically, really strong. He just doesn't make mistakes, right? And he would be our kill play leader. He kills more plays than anybody on our team. And he does it without being overly physical with it. He's, pretty precise with the way he plays.
You touched on it after last game, but you said that Lundell's line was one of your best lines. And It seems like any line he goes on, he's out there contributing to the forecheck, being pretty heavy. I mean, for a guy that's 22 years old, how important is it for him to be that kind of player in games that matter like this?
Well, I was excited about his game because he did a lot of hard things very well. And that for a young player, and certainly Anton, we go back, it was probably December of last year in Edmonton. We were just trying to get him to get bumping, to get some hits. And he had a couple, so we were pretty excited about that, right? And when you think about the amount of the distance he's covered as a player in a short period of time. And what we're most excited about is it's the hard things that young players usually it takes them a while to get used to it almost. It's not that they don't want to, they never have had to go this hard or battle this hard for every puck. But he's made great strides in that. I'm really excited about where he's developing. I just think he and Luosterainen have been just quietly a great pair. At some point, we'll run him to kill penalties, and we'll split somebody out. That's some year. But they're a great combination together.
We know what Bob's stats are in the postseason, right? But I was wondering from your perspective, what's the psychological impact on the team when he does some of the things he does, like keeping them a third goal off the board, let's say, last game?
Psychologically, you don't have to go to therapy as much, right? Because if he doesn't, you're in team therapy. You're in the video room going, you made these 4 mistakes, and that's why the goal went in. And then if he stops it, we pat him in the pads and say, great job, and nobody talks about the mistakes. So there's fewer therapy sessions when he's playing like that. I think it's been an incredibly difficult start for him in the playoffs. I don't mean the quality of his play. He made some saves that we'll probably be seeing for the next 10 years, the backhand spinorama. But Tampa Bay is really difficult to game because they have like the Pasternak level of skill, and they don't shoot every puck. Right, so the numbers aren't going to look good against Tampa. They're not putting up 50 shots. And then we were in the penalty box a fair amount early in that series. So I don't think. Well, Robbie Tallis tells me that Sergei is almost oblivious to his statistics. The wins are the important thing, and he's at a point in his career where he should be oblivious to the stats. They just don't matter. His stats won't be good, but his play is fantastic. I could have said that at the start. Sorry. Well, I had to get to it. That's kind of the way it works.
Yeah, and to sort of piggyback off that, the last 2 games, only 30-some shots on goal combined. Just to have a veteran who mentally is strong enough to go through the lulls and when action does pick up, know what he has to do. Just the value of him being able to handle the lesser volume of shots against in the game.
Yeah, I've never played goal. Don't understand why you would. But I believe that he has a mental program that he's running in those long stretches of time because he's done it before. That he has some things that he's so routined in what he does. He would have a routine, I would think, in the net for staying sharp and staying mentally alert. I've said this over the course of the year that we had a number of games where I thought it was a veteran goalie's win because there were stretches that there was nothing going on, and you look up and you say, yeah, you outshot him 35-21, but there's a segment of saves that only an elite goalie makes, especially if you've been cold for a while.
Bob and net falling off then. Looking at the D pairs, obviously you have on that bottom pair Kulikov, OEL. They've had a really great playoffs together, going back to the regular season as well. What does it mean, especially in playoff time, to have a pair that has 2,000 combined games together? Just the amount of experience those two have.
Yeah, because they've, and also pressure on the international level. Like they've just played in a whole lot of big games. They're at a point in their career where both men could sit down and describe their game to you pretty clearly, pretty concisely, and you would agree with it, and there's not much variation in it, right? Young players, you're trying to define their game. This is kind of what your skill set is. This is where we think you'd be really good, and we want you to pretty much stay in that, because when you get outside of what you're good at, well, you're not as good at it. Both guys have a very clearly defined game that they play, and they're comfortable with it now.
Paul, did the Bruins just not want to move their skate up, and how does it change? Do you remember ever the visiting team skating?
No, it's always like, so anything that happens prior to 7 o'clock, the times get flipped.
Okay.
And the home team has the choice.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, though, this is when we skate. So if we have a 6 o'clock game, we take the 9:30.
Okay.
So
it
it's
doesn't
good for
change
it
anything.
doesn't change anything. It's good for us. It's good for the Bruins. They get the time slot they wanted. We get the morning skate. This is not a complaint. It's part of the challenges of the logistics of us doing our job. We were fairly regular time starts during a regular season, and then we get unusual times, right? Our first game against Tampa was at 12:30. I don't think we had one of those. So it's part of dealing with, I don't want to call them distractions, but there are different things happening to your day that didn't happen in the regular season. So it's early for everybody, not for the, I mean, we could do this. Coaches would love 9:30 morning skates, right? Your whole day would be fantastic. It doesn't affect us.